Hello, this is Steve Malmgren, Senior Director of Architecture for MAS200 MAS200. I'm going to be stepping you through a customizer demo today. In this session, what we're going to do is record some survey data to collect some demographics about customers, so that we can then use that in conjunction with the Business Insights Explorer to do some analysis in terms of where our customers come from, the numbers of them, and how they contribute to the overall sales to the organization. So one thing I'm going to do is, one thing I always like to do when I'm working on Customizer and doing some demos is take the tasks that I normally use and put them up here on the launcher. Hopefully you're aware of this function. I'm just dragging those up there. Now I can launch Customizer Selection, User-Defined Field, and Table Maintenance right from the launcher. I don't have to go find it in the tree view. So first thing I'm going to do is go into User-Defined Field and Table Maintenance. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a source table for to define where our customers are actually coming from, whether it's from a newspaper, Yellow Pages, website, customer referral, walk-in, whatever it might be. So the first thing you have to do is decide when you're adding user-defined table is define which module you want to put it in. If you notice, as I highlight each of the business framework modules, this button over here is enabled, which says add a user-defined table. If I was to click on inventory, which is really still legacy in 4.3, you'll see that that button gets disabled. Alternatively, I can also right-click on any of these module folders and just select add a user-defined table from there as well. So in terms of deciding which module to put it in, it really has to do with the type of information we're tracking, whether it's used across modules. And what I mean by that is you may have a table that's in use for maybe both accounts payable and job cost. But let's say the customer who's actually using your modification doesn't really activate job cost. And in a case like that, you want to make sure that that table is going to be around for both of them. So you could either put that in accounts payable, assuming they're using accounts payable job cost, or you could choose common information, which is where we put some tables like the CI item, which is our items for miscellaneous charges and miscellaneous items, as well as the inventory items. And you can use that module, and those files get created whenever you activate a company. It's kind of one of those things that automatically get activated, and you can rest assured that your data files will exist when a new company is created. Another alternative is to make it a system table. And what you'd use that for is any table that's really going to be used across all companies. So we use that for sales tax codes and things like that, so that it's really you enter them once and then all companies on the system use that. We'll touch on one of those in a later session. But for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to go ahead and to the accounts receivable module and add a user-defined table. So I'm going to call this customer source. And I just tabbed off that field, and Customizer defaulted that description in for me. And it also defaulted in the key field name when I tabbed off there as well, and creates a description. The key field length is 10 bytes. That's a default. You can change that to whatever you want, from 1 to, I believe, 128 bytes. But I'm going to go ahead and leave the default at 10. And essentially what's happened there is I just created a brand new table called AR_UDT_custos_source. And that table is going to exist out of my dictionary. I've got ODBC access to it. And it basically has one field in it right now, and that's the key field. So what I'm going to also do is go ahead and add a description. So I'm going to call this source description. And I'm going to leave this as a string. And we'll go ahead and make it a 30-byte string, and we'll give it a caption. Now, some other things to look at here is we have a control type. Multi-line is really just an edit box. That's one of these type of controls here. It's just a place for you to enter in the information. A drop box would be something like this, where you could give it a list of values. A list box is similar to a drop box, but it's always expanded, if you will. So you'll have a little control on the screen where you see all of the different values. And then a checkbox would be one of these guys here. So we'll have this as a multi-line. That's basically going to add a 30-character string for that. So once I hit OK here, that's going to go through and update my ODBC dictionaries. It's also going to create a Business Insights Explorer view, so that now you can use that the Insights Reporter wizard to create a report off of this table. So once that table is created, there's a few things I can do with it now. I can maintain the UDT data, which brings up a little grid entry program to allow me to put the data in. I can also add this task to the desktop. So what that'll do is if I chose to, well, let's just go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and add this guy to the desktop. You see it's processing menus. And if I open up down to Custom Office here and click on UDT Maintenance, now I've got that task out there, which means now I can add security to it. So if you have certain users you want to give the ability to add new rows to this, you can go ahead and allow them to do that without necessarily having rights to go in to define user-defined tables as well. So that's what they add to this. And then we got set UDT grid entry order. And what that allows you to do is maintain the order that the columns are entered left to right. In this particular case, we've only got two fields. The key is going to be entered first. The second field is going to be there, so there's really no need to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Maintain UDT Data. And here's my little grid entry screen. So I can just go ahead and start typing in some things like maybe radio. And maybe that's a radio station ad. And that's where we got that customer from. So I'm going to go take a quick break and enter in a bunch of these guys right here. So. Okay, back. So what I did was I, just to kind of show you, I just added some rows to my customer source. So I've added a few direct mail campaigns to see you know, how many customers those yielded. Newspaper, if I got a newspaper ad that's brought some people in, radio ad, customer referral, walk-in, you know, website or yellow pages. What I also did during the break was I created another user-defined table called referred by, and I populated that as well. So same basic principle, right? I added a user-defined table, give it a 10-byte key description. So I've got here's my referred by. So I've got ABF, so if my customer ABF has been referring customers, or if website was my source, did I get it from Google, Price Grabber, or Yahoo? I've got my radio stations, KNAC and STR, and then a couple newspapers. So what this will allow me to do now is say when I, in customer maintenance, if I'm adding some fields for a customer source and refer by, I can now capture, you know, where those customers came from, and if they were referred either by a customer or a website or a newspaper, I can, or radio station, I can keep track of those and do some analysis. So that's essentially what we got. And I talked about Business Insights just to let you know. There's a default report that comes with the user-defined tables. It's basically a name, column, pair. I'll just go ahead and preview to see what you got here. So this is what you get. You've got the code with, that's the code, and then the description. So if you had multiple columns, you'd get all the different columns underneath, kind of a name value. So that's what you get by default. If that's good enough, great. If you want a nicer looking report, Business Insights, just want to show you that real quick. So now what I'm going to do is go up to the customer master table, and that's the table for that we use in customer maintenance. And I'm going to go ahead and add a few user-defined fields to it. So we're going to go ahead and add that source field. And I'm going to go ahead and leave this at manual entry. And you can think of that as manual entry means if I'm calling up customer maintenance and I'm manually typing in that value, that's what I'm going to use. And since that's what I'm doing in this case, I'm going to leave it at that. We'll cover business object in a future session. Okay, so once I've done that, I've got my default value of 10, and maximum length of 10. It is going to be a multi-line, so that's fine. I've got a caption set already. And on the validation tab, what I'm going to do is say I want to validate this field against a user-defined table. So what happens is, and this is important to note, that since I have a field here that I'm adding that's 10 bytes long, this Dropbox for validation lookup is going to show me all user-defined tables that have been defined with a key length of 10 bytes. So here's the two I've defined thus far. So I'm going to just use the customer source, since this is the source field. I can also say this is a required field. Something to keep in mind, if you make this a required field, this applies to all companies. We had some support cases early on with the business framework stuff where people would be setting up user-defined fields as required fields, but then they'd only put that field on one particular company's data entry screen. So another company, usually be in another company, they go to save a record and they get a, hey, this field's required, but it wasn't even there to enter it. So we'll talk about advanced field settings in a later one, and that allows you to set required field by specific company. But so if you do set it here, it's going to carry across to all companies. So you want to watch out for that and make sure that's what you really want to do. But I'll go ahead and make that a required field. And now we'll go ahead and add the referred by as well. And we'll also leave that at manual entry. And same thing, we'll come over here and validate that against my referred by table. Okay, but we're not going to make that a required field because if they're just a walk-in, they weren't referred by anybody. Okay. So those are a couple valid or nice fields that we want to track and do some analysis on, but let's go ahead and add a few more. So yeah, let's go ahead and add maybe an age UDF. Make that manual entry. What I'm going to use for this is a Dropbox. So, and on the validation tab, you'll see because it's a Dropbox, the only valid fields, the only thing that's valid is to put in a list of entries. So I'm going to go ahead and enter a few here. I'm going to default as put in no response as a valid value, and I can set that as a default value. Back to the attributes tab and do that. Let's go ahead and do that right now. And put no response. And that means when I add a new customer, a brand new customer, the default value is going to be set to that. And so I'm going to hit enter here, and that's how you do it. Tab will take you to the next field. Enter will allow you to enter the next value in the list. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in a few ranges here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and fill the rest of this in, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I went ahead and entered all this, these different ranges. So what will happen is these will be presented in a Dropbox, and the user will be able to select from them. So I'm going to hit OK there. Okay, so here's something interesting. We set the default. Go ahead and hit fixed length. So what that does is it goes over and changes my maximum length to 11 to automatically fix it. So I'll go ahead and OK that. So another field we want to track is gender. And we'll give that another value of default value of no response. Also make that a Dropbox. And here we'll just say no response, male, female. Okay, and one last one, we'll track income level as well. Okay, this one we'll go ahead and bump up to 20. And once again, we'll give it no response. Make sure we click it as a Dropbox. And I'm just going to go ahead and type in a bunch of levels here, so hold on just a sec. Okay, so back. So I got some entries here that serve as my Dropbox for this income level field. So go ahead and OK out of that. So there's all my information that I'm going to keep track of in my survey. And then we'll be able to do some interesting analysis with Business Insights Explorer. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK there. update all the dictionaries. This also updates the Business Insights Explorer. Well, when it updates the OWC dictionaries, which is really in the ProvideX dictionary, it's automatically available to me in BIE. It also creates a Business Insights report, updates the view for the customer table so that those fields are now to any customer-related reports as well. So I've basically finished all the user-defined fields, so what we need to do now is go ahead and add these fields to the screen. So I'm going to jump out of here and come back into Customizer Selection. So now Customizer Selection is also off the main menu here, so I just dragged that up. What you can do here, this is a list of all the modules, and you'll see that if you open up accounts receivable, these are all the different forms that you can add UDFs to. If I go to look at a legacy module, wow, quite a few here as well. Well, anyway, we're going to go into customer maintenance, and let me just kind of show you what we're looking at here. These are all the different screens or forms or panels that are available to us in customer maintenance. So I'm just going to launch customer maintenance real quick and kind of show you what we're looking at. So if I bring up customer maintenance here, all these tabs along here, the main, additional, statistics, summary, those are what are called panels. And if I look back at my customizer selection, those correspond to these panels that start with a P. So P additional, P main, P statistics. That's what those refer to. So if I wanted to add a user-defined field to main, I'd just click on this guy and bring it up. These things that start with O, those are for on-the-fly type maintenance. So anywhere where you're in the system, if you put in a customer number and invoice data entry and it's not on file, it says, do you want to add this customer? That's going to be this O customer. That's the customer on the fly. This is adding ship-to addresses on the fly. The rest of these guys are dialogues that pop up from within customer maintenance. So there's a dialog to maintain ship-to addresses. There's a search for invoice history. Those are all those different screens. So it just kind of gives you a map. So you can go through Customizer Selection to get to that. Or I'm going to close down and show you a couple other ways to get to it. So once I'm in customer maintenance, if I say I want to add a user-defined field on this panel right here, which is the main panel, there's a couple things I can do. I can right-click and get to panel settings and choose customizer at that point. Or there's a hotkey as well, Control F9. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And what that does is launch customizer selection. And it defaults into the current user, current company. I could say this is for all users, all companies. And I'm just going to hit OK here. And that brings up, takes me directly to that panel. So one of the questions I get is, how do we make some more real estate available to put some fields on? You see there's really not enough room here to put all that information that we just added user-defined fields. So you have a few different options. One is to go ahead and change the size of this panel, maybe make this taller. So let's go ahead and show you what that looks like. So over here on this tool panel here, this upper left-hand corner is the panel header definition. So I can click on that, and this gives me some things about the title, some foreground, background colors that you can change. I'm going to go over here to this position and size. So one thing I can do is say, let's say I want to make this 30 bytes, or 30 line size, not bytes. I hit the OK on that, and it's going to tell me it's increasing the height by 8 rows for the main panel, and that's the main window that contains all these tabs. Because Customizer knows that, hey, you're making this panel bigger, I better make the entire dialog bigger as well. Okay, so now I've got this extra real estate here. So I'm just going to go ahead and save out of here and see what this does to us. So, and this is that main dialog that also got increased. However, if I go to if I go to the panel map, and that's this button here over here to the right, if I click on that guy and say, go to the, now when I do that, by the way, this shows me all of the different controls that are available to me on this main dialog here. So that I got the accept button, which is down here. I got the customer field, ML customer. Those are all the controls that are on the form. So that's kind of useful for finding fields if you got field controls on top of each other. But anyway, what I was going to do is go over to panels. If I go, so the one I maintained was main, but if I go to, say, the additional panel, what you'll notice is that particular panel has not been expanded. So you don't have that extra real estate on this panel, even though if you were to run the form, let's go ahead and do that. Let me get out of here. Even if I was to run it, you'd see I have that extra real estate on this panel, and it looks like you have it here as well, but you really don't. It's not available to you. So what you'd have to do is on this, I'll go ahead and Control F9 again, and I'll modify an already customized panel. I'd want to go into this this panel header definition and make this 30 bytes as well if I wanted to open up that real estate. I just want to kind of point that out, that if you make one of the panels bigger, it'll adjust the entire dialog. Everything will work fine. But if you really want to open that real estate up on those other panels, you need to do that as well. So I'm going to, I'm not going to change that. In fact, I'm going to go back to the main panel and set that back. Oops, hold on. Pmain. I'll go to the panel header definition, and we'll put this back at the 22. Okay, and then finally we'll go back to the dmain, and we'll reset him back as well. So we'll subtract 8, and that gets back to 31. Okay, actually, let's just show you how to delete that. So I'm going to Control F9, bring this back up again, and I'm going to say let's just go ahead and delete. Sorry. Go back to dmain, and we're going to delete this guy. Okay, so now when we come back in here, I've deleted all my customizations. I'm back where I were. So that's how you go through and just kind of resize the overall size of that window, get some more real estate. But there's a couple other alternatives, and I'll go ahead and show you both of them. So I'm going back into Customizer, Control F9, and there's a couple options I have. One is I can add a dialog. So the default here on add an item grouping here is to add an external link. That's what the default is. So I'm going to go ahead and add a button here. And I'm going to call it survey. And Windows standard is to put a dot after, as part of the button caption to indicate to the user that when they hit that button, a dialog is going to pop up as opposed to just hitting the button and an action occurring. So go ahead and set that up. Now my link setting, and we'll cover all of these in a later session, but DDE stands for Dynamic Data Exchange. That's really first way Customizer was able to talk to outside applications like Word and Excel. It's really no longer in vogue, still works. But anyway, in terms of putting these new fields on a dialog, I need to choose the dialog here. And so what's going to happen is when I choose dialog, it opens up this list box here. And I'm going to say I want to add a new panel. And I'm going to call that survey. And then I'm going to go ahead and edit that panel. Okay, so this says, do I want to save the panel customizations for adding this button to this main panel? I'm going to say yes to that. And then that brings me up a a little dialog here. So now what I can do is use Customize or the Add field to start adding this information. Okay. So first thing I'm going to add is my source. And when we're looking at this, this is showing me the business object that's used on this particular form, which is customer maintenance. It's the AR customer underscore biz object. This main is the main table, so that's the AR customer table. The rest of these are actually what we call our child data sources. And those are basically every column from the main table that validates against an external table. So the customer table has a contact code field, and that validates against the contact table. So we also have a division, salesperson, terms code, and so on. This defaults to show just user-defined fields. I can also hit the Show All button. That will show me every column in the customer table, in addition to my user-defined fields. And then also every column from these child data sources. So if there's some fields in MAS200 that we do not display, let's say you wanted the division description to show up on the customer main panel, you could actually put that on the screen right there. So I just kind of want to show you that. I'm going to go back to UDFs, and I'm going to check the UDF source. So I select that guy. And now because I said that's validated against user-defined table, it needed to put the ALE lookup there. So another thing I can do is add the description for that source. And the way I get to that is, once again, because I said that field validates against a user-defined table, I now have this source as a data source. So here's my description for that source, and I can select that, and that's going to print next to it. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this little label here. We don't actually need that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and lay out the rest of the screen, and I'll kind of show you what we got. Okay, one thing I did want to show you is when I'm adding one of the Dropbox fields, so that's going to be, say, the income level. One thing you want to do is, I don't know if you can see this when as I'm dragging down on the, actually in the tooltip above and down on the status bar, you see the rows going, 6.25, 6.7. That's how far down the Dropbox is going to drop. If you just did this as a height of 1, basically when you try to drop it down, you wouldn't see anything. So good rule of thumb is, you probably want to go maybe 5 down. And I think we said the income level was 20 bytes wide. So we're good about there. So I'm going to choose the UDF income level for that. Okay, and that's, so that red line there is how far that Dropbox is going to drop down. So now you can choose in there and scroll across to the rest of the data. You could make it even bigger if you want them all to show up. So I just wanted to kind of show you that, and that's something you want to keep in mind when you're laying out Dropboxes. So I'm going to go ahead and line up the rest of these guys. Okay, so that's not the prettiest looking screen, but I'll go ahead and fix that up before I ship this off to you guys. But anyway, that's what my little dialog looks like. And so I've got my source field, my referred by, and my 3 Dropboxes. So I'm going to go ahead and save this off. Let's go ahead and run this guy and see what he looks like. So I'm going to call up customer ABF, hit my survey button, and now here's my source. So I can hit my lookup, and there's my list of sources. I can say, okay, this is maybe from a website. And in terms of the referred by, I'll say he came from Google. See his income level, 75 to 100,000, age 26 to 40, gender male. So right there I've captured some information, some survey information that I can now take and go ahead and do some BI analysis for. Okay, so that's one way of opening up some real estate. Let's go check out another way. So I'm going to modify an already existing panel. Come back over here. I'll shut him down. So another option I have is to actually add another tab. So I'm going to go to the panel map, and I'm going to go to the main dialog. So I click on D main, go to panel. And what I can do here is right-click on that tab area. Let me just do that again so you can see what I was doing. So I got this in this gray area here for the panels. I'm hitting the right-click. And that shows me a list of all the tabs I have currently. But I'm going to go ahead and add a custom tab. So this is a way to open up a new field. And I'm going to just call this survey. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and do a default tab width and hit OK. And now I've got an additional panel now that I can go ahead and add that. I've got all this real estate barely available to me on the survey tab. So some other things I can do here is I can say I can make that a yellow tab just to kind of show you. You can change all these different tabs to different colors if you choose to. Maybe you want to say, hey, main and additional, that's where you're entering data for a new customer. Give those a different color so they know that's what they have to visit when they're adding a new customer. The rest of these are basically inquiries. So now what I can do is click on this survey and say go to panel. Now this is asking me, do I want to save this change that I added this tab for? Say yes to that. And now I'm sitting here on this brand new survey dialog, and I can basically go through and do those same modifications by putting on different user-defined fields and descriptions. Okay, so let me go ahead and add these guys, and I'll be right back. Okay, back. So now I've got all those fields out there, so let's go ahead and save this off and take a look and see what that looks like. Okay, so I'm sitting here on my, I've still got this survey button. Looks like I didn't save him before, so let's go back and to the website. I said Google, income level. Okay, so I accept that. Come back here, hit the survey, it's there. Over on the survey button, it's also there. So somebody asked me, is there any real difference between adding a tab or a dialog? And the answer is really no. There's no difference. You can add the same fields to and hide them behind a button or add a tab. It's really just personal preference. You can take any standard MAS200 field, some things necessarily on a basis and hide them on the main panel, also put them a dialog so they can get to them behind that. So that's really a quick demo of how to add some user-defined fields, validate them against a user-defined table, and put them on a screen to capture that data. There's one other thing I really wanted to show you, and that's we did some usability analysis, and it really came out with the new report selection screen. People complaining about mouse clicks. So one thing that's very nice in Customizer, if you don't already know it, go ahead and Control F9 in it, is the ability to set tab stops. So that's what this tab definition is here. And these are all the current tab stops that we ship out of the box. But let's say you're never using address line 2 or 3. And once you enter the city, the state, zip, and country code get defaulted in. So let's go ahead and get rid of those. So you never set that. You do need the salesperson, the telephone, extension, maybe fax code, but terms code, take the default value, contact code. Let's just go ahead and remove all the rest of these from the tab sequence. So one thing I can do is hit the preview button, and this will show me what the tab stop is going to be. So as I'm entering a new customer, all I have to do is enter the address, go right to the zip code, then right to the salesperson, telephone, extension, and fax. Now, if I decided I didn't need extension, I can take that as well. Just show you what happens when I save that and run this guy. So now when I'm setting up a new customer, so I'd set in 56 technology, goes right to my zip code, defaults everything else in. So the point is, these tab stops, you can really streamline the data entry, particularly in sales order entry. All you really need to enter in sales order to get an order in the system is the division, customer, and then the part number. So everything else kind of defaults in. So there may be other specific things that each user needs to enter, but you can tailor that to each specific user or each customer in terms of what they need to do. This really just streamlines the data entry. They don't have to remember, I got to hit tab 12 times before I get stuff. Or you can just streamline and help them. Okay, so let's go take a look at BIE and see what we can do with all this new information. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and launch the customer view. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and add those user-defined fields to this view. So the way I do that is I can, on any of these column headers, right-click and select column settings. There's also menus and other ways to get to that as well. So these are the fields that we've really put onto the customer view right out of the box. So what I want to do is go ahead and add my user-defined fields. So I don't know if you saw, I'll just click on this Add button here to add a new field. I'm going to open up the customer tree view. And here's a bunch of UDFs that I've added. So the ones that we added in the previous example were gender. So let's go ahead and add that. Okay, so I'm changing the caption. I'm going to go ahead and add a few more. Take the customer source. I'm really just changing the caption. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for the rest of these. And now I've already gone through the customer maintenance while I was breaking there and filled in the data for all the customers so we have some meaningful views that we can do. So hold on just a sec. Okay, so I've gone ahead and added these the UDF, so we added an example. So we got the gender, the customer source, the referred by, the income level, and the age. One other thing I want to do here is add a calculated field. I'll show you a little trick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this count, and I'm going to give it an expression of just a hard-coded 1. And I'll show you what I'm able to do with that. So I've gone ahead and added, we'll just give this, we'll make this numeric. That's fine. Okay, so here's all my data over here. It looks like so I've got now by gender, customer source, income level, referred by, age, in this count field. I'll show you what we can do with that in a second. But right off the bat, I can come up here and say, let's group by gender. Okay, so I had 2 people, no response, 8 females, 7 males. Kind of interesting. Let's get rid of that. Let's do by customer source. And here you can see I've got, there's one that I missed, that was a new one. But I got 1 from a direct mail campaign, 3 from a radio station, etc. So this really becomes interesting when I get over to the charting capability, which is new to 4.3. So what I can do here is I can choose this count field, which really gives me a hard-coded 1. So I got a total of 17 customers in ABC demo data. But I can do these group bys, any of these, anything that's interesting me. So if I want to know by customer source, here's what I got. Now, would you rather see that in a pie chart? Maybe. So, by different types of graphs that we have, I can take a look and see, okay, I got 6 from my website, 1 from a customer referral, 3 from radio, 1 blank, 1 from my direct mail campaign. Now, granted, 17 customers, not the greatest analysis, but hopefully you get the idea. So I can also say, hey, by referred by, where am I getting? So I got 3 from Yahoo, 2 from Google, 2 from Extra Radio, 1 from KNAC. See with the age of my customers, and I can sort this by age. So here's my range of, so the bulk of my customers are in that 18 to 40 range. So just some interesting And how about income level? We can sort that by income level and see where we got there. Now this points per page, that can go up to 24, so you can do some year dash period information up to 2 years. There's only four selections here, but I just kind of want to show you that. So one thing I can do is I can save this setting, and I can call this customer survey data. And that data. But anyway, now I've got that save setting. I can make that my default setting, so every time I come in here, I can take a look at it. Some other things I can do, if I go back to the grid, I can say, go into my column settings again. Or actually, let's do this. Let's go into the filter and say, I'm interested in date established is this year. Now, because our demo data is for 2010, this isn't going to show anything, but just to give you an idea, you can further slice this data, say, how many customers I get this year versus last year versus this month versus whatever you want to. So you can do some additional date filtering on to see where your customers are coming and maybe year over year to see where they're coming from. Okay. So one other thing I want to show you is that's interesting for looking at counts of customers and pie charts, bar charts, whatever you want to do. But let's say you want to take that a step further and see how it's affecting your sales based on your customer source or your demographics. So drill into preview is what we had in 4.2 in BIE, and let me just show you what that does. When I choose that, it comes up, and based on the context, so I was on Division 02 Customer L and AP, so it gives me just the sales history information for that one customer. Go ahead and hit the back button, and let me show you what Open Preview does. So when I hit Open Preview, that says, give me all sales history regardless of filter. So